Hi everyone. So I came across this book, Eze Goes to School. And if you grew up in Nigeria in the 80s or in the 90s, I think it was the 90s, it was a very popular book while we're growing up. It was one of the recommended reads in primary school. So I saw it some time ago and I picked it up for nostalgic reasons because I was like, oh wow, Eze Goes to School. It's been a while. And then I got around to reading it, and I realized that this book maybe either it might have been intentional on the author's part or it might not have been. Essentially, a picture of everything that's wrong in the Nigerian value system today. So in this video, I'm going to talk about 6 ways in which Eze Goes to School shows what's wrong with our Nigerian value system today. So, just to set the background on this book is set in Ohia, which is a hamlet in eastern Nigeria. And it was set about the time of the Second World War, which is around 1945 or thereabout. It follows basically his journey or his attempts and his struggles in trying to go to school and how he overcomes the struggles. Before I start, when I say Eze Goes to School shows us everything that is wrong with Nigerian value system, I don't mean that as an indictment of the authors, Nzeku and Crowder. I mean, for all we care, that was the whole point. That was part of the essence of the novel, to show us what was wrong with the Nigerian value system. So I am not saying the authors are what is wrong with the Nigerian value system. I'm saying the story in the book showcases what is wrong with the Nigerian value system. We find that Eze goes to school, and when he's in school, he sees this girl. That in his class, there are lots of voices. One girl. So this is Eze telling his father how his first day at school went. And he says, "Papa, do you know one of the children that came to school today was a girl? Her name is Chinwe." Now listen, his father said seriously, as if life itself depended on what he was about to say. "You must beat all the boys in any examination you take. You must take first place always. And if you are stupid enough to let a boy beat you, never, my son, never let the girl Chinwe beat you." So Eze's father tells him, when he mentions that there's a girl in his class, Eze's father tells him to never let the girl beat him. And in that seems like in passing, for many parents, I think even people my age, hearing that would sound very innocuous, sound like an innocent statement, but it's a very weird statement. Just in case anyone didn't know, that's a very weird statement. That kind of statement, it creates unhealthy expectations for the boys, because they are not less boys if a girl comes ahead of them in class. Coming ahead in class is a function of your cognitive ability to assimilate, which is the same for across sexes. So telling a boy not to let a girl beat him in class is just as nonsensical as telling a Christian boy not to let a Muslim boy beat him in class, or an Igbo boy not to let a Hausa boy beat him in class. Ethnicity, religion, sex, those are not determinants of mental ability. The children are all the same. There's no need to pit one against another. And you find that this kind of unhealthy expectations and this shame that boys are made to feel if a girl comes ahead of them in class, that carries over even long into life, even when they grow up and they have to create justification for that shame if they see a woman ahead of them. And you hear nonsensical things like she slept her way to the top, or she's just a fluke, or several other just strange rationale. But these are really men trying to feel less ashamed for allowing a woman to be ahead of them. And that whole system is really not necessary, because the men and women in terms of mental ability and ability to grasp concepts, which is what puts one ahead of the other in school, they are the same. So there was really no need, and even up until today, we still see those systems being set up where boys are made to feel ashamed if a girl is ahead of them in class, and that is one of the issues we create for ourselves in this society in Nigeria. I said enough about that. So the second issue about the Nigerian value system raised in this book is when Eze's father, whose name is Okonkwo, dies. So in their hamlet Ohia, they had a situation. There was a leopard roaming about. There was a leopard on the rampage, and it was terrorizing their society. The leopard had actually picked up a couple of children, and the villagers were in fear. They had to sit. They sat in their houses in fear of the leopard. But after a while, they realized that if we sit in our houses all day, we're going to starve. All the food is in the farm, so we have to go out and get food. So they decided to go out and get food, but they decided that they would have people carrying weapons around, surrounding the people that had to go about in their daily activities. And they went, when they were on one of such trips, the leopard came out and attacked a band of villagers on their daily activities. And Eze's father Okonkwo was in that band of villagers. And he stayed back. The other people ran away, but he stayed back and fought the leopard. And he finally subdued the leopard, and he finally killed the leopard. But in the process, he sustained critical injuries, fatal injuries, and he subsequently died. And of course, he died as a hero trying to save his village, because other people in that group ran away. So it was agreed that he would get a hero's funeral. When his brothers came round, they decided that their brother had to be buried as a hero. But the problem with the hero's funeral that they gave him was that it came at the expense of his family, at the expense of the well-being of his family. So according to the story, to ensure that the funeral was grand, they essentially went to his barn, Okonkwo's barn. They collected all the yams there, cooked the yams. They took all his goats, all the goats that he was rearing, and they killed them and cooked them to create a big feast for the funeral. So they got their hero's funeral. But when they were done with the hero's funeral, his surviving family, his widow and his two children, Eze and his sister Ulu, had nothing to live on. So this brings us to another way where our value system is really warped. And this is the celebration of the dead at the expense of the living, where we throw lavish funerals with no thought to how the people that are being left behind are going to survive. And we see so many scenarios where families that were doing very well, or even not so well, they're thrown into poverty after the loss of their breadwinner. Sometimes due to the fact that the estate wasn't planned properly, but also sometimes due to the financial burden that the family puts themselves under to ensure that their loved one gets a befitting funeral. It's just one of those things, and it cuts across almost every aspect of every part of the country where you see this scenario. And it's ingrained in our value system, this need for befitting funeral, quote and unquote, even though at the end of the day, it leaves the surviving people impoverished. It's one of those things that is actually dysfunctional. It's something, somehow some of us have accepted it as normal, but it's really dysfunctional, and it contributes to part of the issues we see today, where people are thrown into poverty because of needless expenses that are put up all in a bid to show respect to the dead. And there are different ways to show respect to the dead, but I don't believe impoverishing the living is one of them. So that's the second one. The third one is the one, of course, right after the funeral happened. Eze's mother could not afford to send Eze to school because they had school fees to pay. She had to basically raise the family on her trade, which wasn't enough. So they had to appeal to start appealing to other people around them. There was even a time where they called a gathering of the elders in the village and they said, "This is Eze. His father's wish was for him to go to school. His father died in the process of saving this village. The least we can do for him is to ensure that there's money to send this boy to school." And that meeting ended up basically they weren't able to get consensus on to get people around to contribute money to go to school, or for Eze to go to school. And that's another really messed up thing about our value system, is how quickly we forget our heroes. If I started to name the different examples, the case of the footballer who essentially died on the pitch because he was trying to bring glory to Nigeria, he wasn't given the right type of honor. And even in recent times, we've seen this happen again and again. We're a nation that forgets our heroes too quickly. It's one of those really warped things about our value systems, and it's shown in this book, Eze Goes to School, on how quickly Eze's father, who died trying to protect his village, was forgotten, and his son was left by himself. So the story gets depressing, but I think it gets happier as it goes. But let me keep going.